Hey everyone, welcome to episode 112 of Tuesdays with Perry. Let's get Perry on the line right now. Well, we're going to be talking about what's on everybody's lips, which is the tariffs. So let's see if we can't get Perry on the line.
Hello.
Hey Perry, welcome to the podcast once again. It is Tuesdays with Perry, episode 112. So we're going to start talking about what's on everybody's lips these days, which is the tariffs. I'm sure you know
sure
what.
That's what's on everybody's lips.
Well, I know on Wall Street, and of course, I think everybody's talking about it. I think Xi Jinping is talking about it. So what we have is 50 to 70 countries rushing to negotiate. Nobody's retaliating except for our good friends there, the communists in China. And as I mentioned before, we're targeting China. I mean, it's sort of like we're going to be fair about it and target everybody, but it's really about China. So, and then there's a few other things I'd like to talk about. But let's start with the tariffs. And so what do you think? You think we're going to crash the stock market, or we're going to go into a recession? What's going to happen here?
Well, I think the Walton family is going to be looking to the Democrats to save their fortune for them. That's what I think. Sam Walton's turning over in his grave. I kid you not. Put that aside. Look, whether it's the Democrats who, as you so expertly did, and there are several other podcasters who I watch have done, you have shown, whether it's Schmucky Chucky from Queens or Brooklyn, or whether it's Princess Pelosi from San Francisco, every one of these people were on the other side of the argument 30 years ago. So who is the one person for the past, well, let's just say 40 years, but between 35 and 40 years, who's the one person in this whole argument whose message about tariffs has been consistent for 4 decades? That would be Donaldus Magnus. So, as many defenders of his second presidency are saying, when they turn to the people who, of course, are saying, well, these tariffs are going to destroy our economy and this, that, and the other thing, he's going to cause a world war, blah, 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 blah. I don't understand why you're confused. The man has said for almost 3 years that if he was granted a second term, this is what he would do. 77 million legitimate votes. Notice I said legitimate. Legitimate votes were cast for the policies that he espoused for 2 years leading up to November 5th. And they're not all taking effect yet. Just look at the price of gas. You know, I checked again today. I'm down another 5 cents from last week. So now I'm at $3.15 a gallon. Okay? For premium. All of this, let's not talk about the price of eggs, because in all honesty, he had nothing to do with the increase in cost of eggs. And in fairness to the argument of the other side, he has nothing to do, except for the ending of culling of chickens when he came to office. He has had nothing to do with the price now going down. It's all about Mother Nature. These chickens that were hatched after the culling started under Biden are now starting to come online. Chickens take 5 to 6 months from the time they hatch until they produce their first egg. So, higher supply, meeting demand equals lower price. Same thing with oil. And when it comes to manufactured goods, and specifically the tariffs that Donald Trump is placing directly and indirectly on the communist Chinese. Why do I say indirectly? Because they have gone through the back door to reach the American market any way they can, whether it's Temu, which I happen to use. I hate to admit that, but I do, because believe it or not, I can find products that I need on Temu that I can't find on any store or website, not even Amazon sometimes. So by the use of Temu, there was a loophole that they have now filled. So
Right.
no longer can Temu ship directly from China into the United States to avoid tariffs on, let's say, a $30 purchase. Not going to happen. You're going to pay the tariff now. And do you see me crying about it? Nope. Because if I can find a domestic source, I will use it every single time. What's the other way they've been able to get around the tariff system that has been put in place? Well, that's right. They're using far off distant countries like the Solomon Islands. Did you know that?
Yeah.
And so they ship to the Solomon Islands. They ship to Mexico. Hell, I'm sure they ship to Canada too. They ship everywhere they can where there is next to no tariff with the United States or a minimal tariff with the United States. So when Trump chose to place a 10% tariff across the board on every nation we do business with, it wasn't done to hurt our friends and allies. It was done to send a message to Chairman Mao's grandson. We're going to get you to buckle your knee, economically speaking, one way or the other. The problem we're having is that, and I saw yesterday's show, you did a masterful job cutting it up. It took you time to do it. I am very grateful as a member of your audience that you did that. Lutnick, you know, I love Howard Lutnick. I don't think I've ever loved a secretary inside a presidential cabinet more than him, because he is the gentleman version of the Trump battering ram when it comes to economics. And he took it to her just like Scott Besson took it to her. Look, you don't seem to be following what's going on here, Maggie. Let me educate you. And each of these men took the time to do that. And this is what we're going to have to continue to do. Everything is going to plan. I know we'll get to it, but I have to say it now, including the destruction of these horrible judgment. Let me rephrase. Horrible decisions to either engage by way of a restraining order or by some other legal method through the courts. There have been, 3 major decisions that came now over the last 96 hours from SCOTUS, basically saying, yes, Trump's following the law. Let him do it. So all these things, whether it's economic, whether it's judicial, whether it is foreign or domestic policy in general, everything is coming up roses. And the problem is you have the lame brain media, even Fox to a certain extent, who don't want to tell the story. They're telling stories, but they ain't telling the story. And so it's going to continue to be up to men like you, women who are also doing podcasts and other forms of news information, both in the written form as well as audio or video or both. It's going to take Herculean efforts on the part of people like you to see to it that the story continues to get out there. And because of guys and gals such as yourself, the media, the lame brain media, can no longer peddle their narrative exclusively.
Right.
And that's a wonderful thing.
Right. And you even had Maggie Brennan there on Face the Nation with Lutnick saying, why did you put tariffs there on those little uninhabited islands that are in the, in the
South Pacific.
Then the South Pacific, I think it's South Atlantic there by Antarctica. There's no population there. And Lutnick explained that, why are you being so obtuse? The reality there is that China will try to use any country that's not covered as a way to get products into the United States. And apparently now the European Union, I thought they were going to cave and say, hey, we're going to side with China. They can't. Apparently they're coming to the table. But if you listen to von der Leyen there, the head of the EU, what she was saying was that, we're preparing a package of retaliatory tariffs, which they didn't do, and now they're coming to the table to negotiate. And they even said to China, don't think you're going to dump all your products here because we're not going to have it either.
Right.
And also you had Canada just recently saying to Donald Trump, I think it was Doug Ford, that said to Donald Trump, oh, by the way, the real enemy isn't Canada. We should focus on the real enemy, which is China, which was music to my ears to hear that as well.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that is why I'm telling you, this presidency so far, now we're only, day 76? I mean, it's a long journey, okay? But not even 3 months into this presidency, all long-term, not short, long-term benefits are already on the horizon. We see it coming, and it's only going to get better. And, as for, and this is something, I don't know if you discussed this or not last week, Rudy. You did mention on one of your shows how incredibly, and the media didn't really discuss this at all. The economy gained 250,000 jobs in the month of March.
Yep. Covered that. And unemployment went up, which is a good indicator that inflation is going down.
It is a good indicator of that. But to get into that number, there were, I think, 100,000 job claims for unemployment. Where were those claims coming from? I don't know, but my instincts tell me a lot of that is coming from what are now former civil servants.
Yeah,
That's in the long term,
right.
That's fantastic for our economy.
Yep, absolutely.
Because government doesn't produce anything.
Yeah, and the jobs report also was way above expected by 100,000 jobs. So that in itself is a good indicator, because even when the experts don't know exactly what's happening, even when the experts are fooled, and those job numbers came in, and that's only the second month really of him being in office, those are great numbers.
And, I'm not a gambling man, but I'm going to put my marker down on this. How much you want to bet come the month of May, when they will revisit the adjusted numbers for March, the numbers are going to go up for new jobs, not down.
Yeah.
We're not going to have fewer jobs than what we currently know were created in the month of March. I bet it'll be another 10 to 20,000 more jobs. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think all the indicators are good. And I think why? Because there was some issue with the investors that why do you have to do it all now, shock, and why didn't you just negotiate tariffs one-on-one? That would have taken 4 years, and we need this to be cleared up within the year, this tariff document.
Well, you have the country of Israel, and there was another country, and that's one of the reasons why Netanyahu came here this past week, has already said zero tariffs on American goods for zero tariffs on Israeli goods. You don't think Trump is going to love that? Where do I sign?
Yeah,
that's what he's going to say.
Yeah, he does. He is worried about the whole trade obstacle, because they're factoring in VAT and other trade obstacles, as well as tariffs. So even Maggie Brennan asked Lutnick, how did you arrive at these numbers? And the reason they arrived at certain numbers was it's tariffs plus VAT plus any other, they even lumped in subsidies that would offset any tariff. So they used a formula to get these numbers. So it's not just, even with, I believe it was Vietnam, said, we'll go to zero right now. Trump was like, hold on, just wait 1 second here, because the VAT apparently in Vietnam is pretty extensive.
Interesting. Yeah, there wasn't much discussion about that. I know there's a significant VAT tax in Europe, but I didn't realize they were applying the same type of taxation policy in Vietnam.
Well, they do. Yeah, they do. It's just smoke and mirrors, really. It's saying, oh, we're going to lower it, so they have different levers to pull. Oh, our tariffs are going to zero, but they still have obstacles for our goods there. I mean, if the VAT is too high, it's going to make it too expensive. People aren't going to buy the product, so it's
correct.
It's useless. So let's get to Wall Street. So we lost, quite a lot of money in the stock market. It is going to be an adjustment period. My take on it is, and I want your take on it, is that this should really be cleared up, sans China, in the next month or so. And I think everything is going to recover nicely. The problem is the majority of investors who invested in manufacturing in China are the ones that are going to be sort of stuck, because it's going to take several years to ramp up any sort of production here in the United States. What's going to happen in that time frame? What are the people going to do? Do you think they're just move it over to Vietnam? Even if they do that, they're going to have to build factories. It's going to take time. What do you think the economic transition period is going to be, and who's going to be the winners and who are going to be the losers?
Well, first off, why do there come the air quotes, industrialists who have offshored all of these good paying, I don't want to say high paying, but good paying assembly and manufacturing jobs to China over the past 40 years? Why are we going to let them move their factories from one communist nation to another? We have this little island, impoverished island nation right off the coast of, not far from the coast of Puerto Rico, called Haiti. And it has been a disaster for 150 years. There is no capitalization on that island. How about this? How about we give the Haitian people a reason to have an honest to goodness democracy? The reason why they are as unstable as they are, the reason why the Haitian people live from one autocratic administration to the next, is because there is no capitalization in that country. Vietnam, at the end of the Vietnam War in 1975, was every bit a third world nation as Haiti is today. What is it that turned Vietnam into the beautiful country it now is. I mean, they love Americans. What is it? Oh, that's right. It would be American capital that came pouring into the country, starting, if I'm not mistaken, with Bill Clinton. And in the course of 30 years, Vietnam is now a thriving nation. Why is it we can't bring that kind of industrialization, if not back to our shores, which is happening as you and I speak tonight? But if we're not going to bring pencil manufacturing back to the United States, why does it have to move from China to Vietnam? Vietnam doesn't need it. Haiti does. For that matter, Guatemala does, or El Salvador. You know, if we want to push the Chinese out of our hemisphere once and for all, we need to truly invest in our brothers and sisters in Central and South America. Not with U.S. tax dollars, but with U.S. capitalization. That's what I would like to see. Yes. I don't want any more capitalization going to Vietnam.
Right. No, I agree. I agree. Well, what do you think the stock market's going to be doing here in the next several months? And what do you think the outlook is for the U.S. economy, given the tariff dust up? Are we looking at years of stagnation? What do you think's happening? And then I want to talk a little bit about this Senate bill.
Well, in order to answer that, you got to go back 100 years. History is the greatest educator for society. Well, what was going on 100 years ago? It was the boom of the 1920s. How did we get there? Industrialization was one. We became the powerhouse of the world. But we were able to get that way because of what? Tariffs. So there is going to be a lot of upheaval for the next, I'm going to say, 6 months. I said on a prior TWP podcast that I expected things to start, and when I say start turning around, they're already turning around to our favor. But for the average Joe Schmo, they're not really seeing it except for the gas pump and to a much lesser extent, their grocery bills. Even fast food has adjusted. They have gone back to value meals because people were no longer going to McDonald's for a Big Mac, a large fry, and a medium Coca-Cola for $10 when they could actually go to a nicer restaurant, not that I go there, but nicer restaurant like Chili's, where they could get a real hamburger, a bigger order of good fries, and a big bottomless Coca-Cola for $10. So we are seeing things in the macroeconomy improving, but nobody's really feeling it. And they're not going to really feel it and be, let's say, optimistic until the end of the year. I tend to think this is going to be a very good Christmas season unless something unforeseen happens. And you never know.
Yeah.
Most, you know?
Yeah. What we saw today was, okay, so the market already turned around this morning. And so things started to climb when there was talk about the other countries coming to the table. Scott Bessent said, we're going to hold the line. And then it was Hassett that came out and said, oh, we got a bunch of people, they're coming. And the fact that there was no retaliation except for China. And so that put people in a good mood. And then Trump said, well, we're going to hit China back with 104% tariff after the retaliation. And so that sent the market in negative territory again. And you had Maria Bartiromo on Jesse Waters tonight. And she said, what the market needs is a little telegraph, a little transparency, a little clarity, and clarify what exactly is going to happen, because what the market hates is unsure outcomes. Uncertainty.
That's right.
Right. And so as long as Trump understands he's got to play the game, but she said within hours or days, there's going to be some certainty into what is happening. And I think what we're going to see is an expanding trade war with China and everyone else, I think, coming to the table.
Yeah. Well, everybody is coming to the table. Xi is the only one that wants to play hardball. This is not a game of hardball he's going to win, not in the long term.
Right.
Now, having said that, what is Xi's, I hate to use this term, what is Xi's trump card?
I don't think he has, as Trump said, he has no cards.
No, he does. He has several cards. But his trump card is what? It's the United States debt.
Right.
If he wants to destroy, well, not destroy, but if he wants to batter our economy, all he has to do is call that debt.
Yeah, dump treasuries. Yep.
He's got $8 trillion with a T, not a B, $8 trillion of U.S. debt that he has purchased, actually, going all the way back to Dao Zhongping. So he can use that. He can also say, all right, if I can't depend on you, meaning the United States, to be my number one market to exploit economically, I'll look elsewhere. You know, you guys may be the number one economy in the world, but I can sell my goods anywhere else in the world too.
Right.
So, and because they are an authoritarian government, do you think there's going to be another peaceful demonstration at Tiananmen Square anytime soon?
Yeah. I think
that ain't going to happen.
I think it's a good calculation. Maybe it'll get them to start dumping treasury, and that'll get us out of this pickle. All right, I want to talk a little bit about this Senate bill, and then a couple other things, including possible war with Iran, what's going on there. But this Senate bill, so they added $5.8 trillion of new spending. What is going on with the Senate? How do they, because the House is much more MAGA. They're not going to put up with that, especially with Massey there. They're not going to added another $6 trillion worth of spending. And the way this is calculated really is also extending the tax cuts and some of the other tax cuts and other things that they put in there, which we know tax cuts almost pay for themselves in the increased revenue.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. So I honestly can't wrap my mind around what the Senate is doing with regard to economic policies. I don't understand, except to say they want to use it as a bargaining chip when it comes to dealing with the House. The two most important things we want out of this Republican Congress is I don't even expect there to be a balanced budget. But number one, I want to put what's left of this fiscal year to bed. I want to stop with the continuing resolutions. That's number one. And number two, I want to see a budget for fiscal year 2026 put on the president's desk no later than the week of Labor Day.
Right.
That's a lot to get done when you have two different versions of economic policy that are truly opposed to one another right now. So as for what's going on with John Thune, maybe he's listening a little bit too much to not only Uncle Mitch, but Uncle Mitch's Chinese wife. I honestly can't think of any other reason why this is happening. Yeah, I'm not happy about it.
Yeah, you're probably right. They have to do a lot more way before the midterms. I think they have to work harder and faster than what they're doing right now. And I also think that, especially in the Senate, there are too many closet neocons in there in the Republican Party who are just, as you know, a neocon is just a liberal, wearing a better suit.
Right.
So that's very interesting. I hope we get some reconciliation in the House, but the House is going to put the screws to the Senate bill. So again, nothing's going to happen too fast there. Let's move on to Iran. So Trump has said that there will be bombing, and I think he's referring to Israel, but now he's trying to drive Iran to the table. He said they're going to be direct talks, and Iran now says they're not direct. What do you think? And everybody's worried about war. I got a bunch of people online talking about that. We're worried about war with Iran because of the posturing of the aircraft carriers in the Persian Gulf and the B-2 bombers at Diego Garcia. What do you think is the game plan here? What do you think is actually going to occur? And obviously Iran's response.
Well, the first thing you have to understand is why we have, not yet, but we're going to, because they just sent the Carl Vinson over. Why are we going to have two naval battle groups in the area of the Red Sea and the Indian Ocean? Why are they being put there? They're being put there for the purpose of sending a message not only to Iran, but to their proxies in Yemen, that you think we bitch slapped you first by the Israelis taking out all of your missile sites in Iran last year. You think that was bad? You think what we did with our naval aviators a little less than 2 weeks ago inside Yemen was bad? If you dare attack any merchant ship, or more importantly, because they have been attacking our naval ships, if you continue this, we're going to have enough firepower in that area to turn you back to the Stone Age. So don't do it. This is not Uncle Joe telling you not to do it. This is Donaldus Magnus saying, I'm not just going to go tit for tat. I'm going to see that you can never tat again. And it's a message. That's all it is a message. Now, we're doing that. What do you think the Chinese and the Russians are doing? They have two naval groups there now, too. They're not there to see to it that the trade routes stay open. They're going there, or they are there now, specifically to watch us. And that's where the fear of war could become a reality. So right now, I am not worried about war breaking out nearly as much as I was 2 years ago. You go back, I don't know what episode it was, Rudy, but I was scared. I was really scared because the Israelis did not have anyone in the White House that was watching their six. They knew it. And they, as a nation, were in danger. And now the tides have turned. It's the exact opposite. Iran is no longer in a position to act out. Defensively, yes, but not aggressively. So this is the time for Trump to do exactly what he's doing. He's going to offer them a carrot and stick. Hey, come to the table. Let's talk. You don't want to talk? Okay. Take one step and it's over.
Right.
That's the message being sent.
He'll be like
Teddy Roosevelt. Walk softly, carry a big stick.
Yeah. And, you know, condos would look really good right here on the Persian Gulf.
Well, we see what the Arab Emirates have done in the last 40 years. Why not?
Right. Right. And he pulled the same shit with, what's his face there in North Korea. He said, you could have a booming economy here. We have condos. He wants to build condos in Gaza. He wants to build them in North Korea, maybe in Iran too.
Right.
What do you think?
Hey, look, get rid of the mullahs. It's our problem with Iran is not Iran's people. Just like with China. Our problem is not with the Chinese people. It's with the Chinese Communist government. Our problem with Iran is not the Iranian people. Our problem is the Iranian government, which is a theocratic government. That's our problem.
Right. Well, so that puts me a little at ease, though. So we don't have to worry about war in the Middle East right now. He's just putting the screws on. It is a Trump presidency, so we know that was going to happen. Anything else you want to talk about tonight?
Well, yeah, I think we started off, I mentioned, and now I want to go back to it with what SCOTUS has been doing since Friday.
Right.
And you and I have discussed this over the past 8 weeks, and it's happening. All these stays, no matter who it was, but Boasberg is the one that's really in the news right now. And Trump's DOJ has had an opportunity to go and plead their case to SCOTUS. And we've had at least two major decisions made, which basically bitch-slapped Boasberg. Now, the problem I have with Boasberg, I don't know if you're aware of this. I read this on X tonight. You know who Mike Davis is.
Right.
Mike Davis posted on his account that, and along with that, there was, I think, Susan Crabtree. I might have the wrong person, but I think it was Susan Crabtree on his thread showed the order. After SCOTUS had bitch-slapped Boasberg, he is still demanding that the Trump DOJ come to him on bended knee to ask his forgiveness for an order he issued that SCOTUS has already vacated. So the problem I see, and Mike Davis made this very clear, it's time to get rid of these power-hungry judges who think they are the emperor, they have the final say, and all they are is a district court judge. I said to you, I think it was last week on the show, Roberts still hasn't found his balls after, what is it now, 20 years? Not quite 20 years as Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court. He has the power to go to Boasberg and say, if you don't stop this nonsense, Trump is going to see to it that Congress just eliminates your courtroom altogether. They're simply not going to fund you.
Right.
And you're going to be out of a job.
Yeah.
So you better knock this off. But he hasn't done that. And this is the problem I've always had with Roberts. I said last week, he's more concerned about what the New York Slimes and the Washington Compost write about him and his associate justices in their style section than he is about it, interpreting the law and seeing to it that it's followed. So this is a problem. You know, I don't think it's a constitutional crisis, but it's getting close.
Right.
It's getting close.
The Republicans are putting forth a bill to rein in rogue judges. I don't know if that's going to have any movement. But we did have from Roberts, we did have a ruling. He unilaterally ruled that the mistaken Trendaragua member will not be brought back to the United States. That was suggested by a lower court. So he put a stay on that ruling, so that illegal alien will not be coming back. So he did that one good thing. But I was also troubled about the other rulings, particularly the one that said they could use the Wartime Act of the 1798, right? To be able to deport enemies of the state, so to speak. And we had the dissent from a Republican. Guess who it was again? Amy Coney Barrett sided with the liberals in their dissent, which is very disturbing because we have the commenters on the internet saying that, oh, now the liberal commentators saying, oh, now you don't like Amy Coney Barrett. You liked her before. I never liked her. I never approved of her because I believed that she was a sleeper, and she's just proven herself out to be exactly that.
On more than one occasion.
Right, exactly. So I don't know what we still have the majority, but between her and Roberts, it's trouble.
It is. And, my wife actually read an article that went into some depth as to why she sided with the leftists on the court. And it just, from the conversation I had with my wife, my wife was perplexed. I don't understand either, because she said, I agree in principle with what the Trump administration is doing, but I don't agree with how they're doing it. Well, you can't have it both ways.
Right. Right.
If you agree, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say she's there to hamstring conservatives, and that's exactly what she's doing. So however she articulates her position, it's really irrelevant.
That's right.
Because we know, and this is the problem with the ruling too, and this is what gave Boasberg that a little bit of light there, was that they said you still have to have a hearing in front of a lower court. You're right in doing what you're doing, but you still have to bend a knee to a lower court. So I didn't agree with that part of the ruling as well. Anything else you want to touch on before I think we're gonna close out here at 45. So anything else you want to touch on?
The only thing that I want to come back towards is what is happening in the markets, because I honestly believe that once all of this nonsense with tariffs and reciprocity is finally put to bed, and it's going to happen in the weeks ahead. Weeks ahead meaning hopefully by Independence Day, since Trump said we're having our true economic independence again. Well, hopefully by Independence Day, he can come to the American people and say, it's done. And along with all, we're now up to, and I don't think it's accurate, but someone in the Sunday shows this week on our side said, we're up to $6 trillion worth of foreign investment that has now come back into this country. I think it's somewhere around 3 or better. But if that number is accurate, what that's going to mean for our economy in the next year, and that's what we're looking at, because next year is election year again for Congress. You're going to see all these jobs coming online, and a lot of them are union. And one thing we didn't talk about was Sean Fain, who is no friend of Republicans in general and had really nothing good to say about Donaldus Magnus as recently as this past summer, while he was giving his speech at the Democratic convention. Well, he's singing a different tune now.
Yeah.
He literally said, and he said this to the talking heads, for the first time since I was in college, and that, he said, was back in the 1990s, early 90s. For the first time in my adult life, this is not verbatim, we finally have someone in the White House who wants to help the middle class, who wants to benefit the working class, which is really one and the same. And it's going to mean a huge return for manufacturing just within the UAW alone. All these factories, and that's one of the things he said, all these factories that have been shut down or are running at a fraction of capacity are going to be turned back on and are going to be pumping out product more so than they did 40 years ago.
Right.
This is all, and Rudy, I believe that can start to happen
right
possibly
away,
as soon as soon as this summer.
Right, because we have manufacturing capacity for automobiles. So let's do it.
We have unrealized capacity.
Yeah, yeah. And so also,
and you also have Honda saying they're going to build another plant here in the United States.
Right. That's what worries me, the time lag there into building facilities and then getting them up and running. But another thing I want to add on to that is Trump was talking about coal today, and some of the coal plants, coal generating power plants that were going to be retired. He's reinvesting in them and putting them back online. He just had a big speech about coal today. So that's going to lower.
Oh, that was another thing.
Yeah. That's
right. Electrical power is coming down in kilowatt hour.
Yep.
I forgot about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's another win. They're not great paper wins. That's not big headlines. He needs to score a big win. I hope the tariff negotiations are going to be that win. And we'll see. We'll see what happens around 4th of July if we're in good shape. We're gonna have to leave it there though, Perry, and we'll talk and bring this back up next week, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot to talk about regarding the economy and tariffs by next week, along with energy and a bunch of other things. So thanks for joining me today. Oh, one more thing. Go ahead.
And trans athletes being thrown out of women's sports.
Oh, yeah. There's tons to go there because he just sanctioned a few other colleges on DEI, including Cornell. I think that was $1 billion he withheld from Cornell. And Maine is still in the crosshairs. So we're going to revisit that next week. Thanks for joining me, Perry.
All right, Rudy, thanks again, and we'll have to bring up Jasmine Crockett next week.
Oh, do we have to? Do we have to? I can't.
Well, she admitted she was a DEI hire for public defender.
Oh my God!
And said, "You have to hire me. I'm black and I'm a woman."
Oh my God! I think what we need to do is we need to have a verbal tests to make sure people can speak properly, not in this ebonics,
diarrhea of the mouth.
Ebonics or whatever it is.
Well, keep an eye, and this is the last thing I'm going to say because you gotta go.
All right.
Keep an eye on the Republican who is running against her right now. He's running a grassroots campaign. He is running under the wire. Nobody's paying attention to him, and he is going to kick her behind.
I hope so. We'll profile him next week.
Yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll do.
We'll give him a boost.
All right. Thanks again, Rudy. I really appreciate it. It was a great night.
Yeah. We'll talk next week.
Sounds like a plan.
See you, man.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
There goes Perry, episode 112, Tuesdays with Perry. We had a little truncated. We had a hard time getting connected. And then it's time for bed for me, so gotta go. Join me tomorrow and every day, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. live on Rumble, and join us Perry and I for Tuesdays with Perry every Tuesday around 9:15 or so. Live stream or check out other broadcasts of ours from the past. Thanks for joining us tonight. Tuesdays with Perry. We'll see you next week.